Okay, so welcome everyone to another Brown Bag session. My name is Nasra and I am a volunteer with the Events Committee with SCWIST. We are very glad to have you today. Today we are going to have a very exciting session about how to successfully network in the age of Zoom. And we have networking superstar with us. I hope after today's session, you will become more comfortable with networking. Before starting the session, let's take a moment and reflect on our connection to the land and which we at SCWIST Vancouver live and work. Vancouver is on the unceded, ancestral, and traditional lands of Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and the indigenous people of Turtle Island. In the next few days, I encourage you to learn a bit more about the land we live on and personalize your connection to the territories on which we have settled. So here are a few housekeeping rules for today. So as have you seen, we are recording our session. And also, it is much appreciated if you keep your mobiles on silent and microphones on mute. And chat box will be monitored and questions will be redirected to moderator and they will be, she will be asking during Q&A session. And another thing, if you don't get a chance to have your question answered, or if you want to connect with the speaker afterwards, you can send an email to the events team of SCWIST, and the email is here. And without any further delay, a very warm welcome to Sue Maitland. She is a life and career transition coach, huge experience in IT, resource management, and recruiting. And the moderator for today's session is Corina Ludwig. She's from Island Women in Science and Technology. And now the floor is for Sue Maitland.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to get my screen up. So
yes, please.
Continue, yes. And I'm going to pull up the presentation. And just going to do my, what I've got is something happening at the top here. Oh, here we go, slideshow. There we are. So welcome everybody. I'm so delighted you're here. And I do want to congratulate you for showing up. And you know, that's one of the most important things about networking. Make a plan and then commit to yourself and show up. And it's very easy to put things off and find a reason not to show up. So I commend you for being here. So I am going to share with you some of my top tips. I'm really grateful to SCWIST and iWIST for giving me this opportunity to connect with you. I'm really passionate about networking, but I have to tell you that my journey towards networking was not always a positive one. I used to absolutely hate to network. I was terrified of it. I was a horrible networker. And now I'm passionate about it. I love it. And hopefully, if any of you have come and you have that same, some of the challenges, and we're going to talk about some of the challenges, that by the end of this, you might leave with a slightly different mindset about networking. So this is what I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share with you my own networking story of some of the traumas I went through when I was first trying to network. We're going to just brainstorm a little bit. We're going to do it in the Q&A or the chat, I think. Not sure which, but let's say the chat. And I'm going to invite you actually to tell me some of the things that stop you from networking. And then I'm going to share with you the many reasons, or you could call them excuses, that I've heard because I deliver this networking workshop to businesses, to professional associations, and I've been doing this for years. And I have heard every excuse under the book as to why people don't want to network. And then what I'm going to try to do is reframe those negative thoughts into what you can do instead to feel better about it. We're going to talk about the many benefits of networking, and then I am going to share those top tips for virtual networking. We're going to have some time for Q&A, and then we are all going to get to have a virtual networking experience. And it's going to be fun and interactive, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you. So my networking, it was a very traumatic start. So I didn't come from a family where, you know, my dad networked or my mom networked. We didn't do that. I was told that how to get on is work hard, you know, and then you'll get on. And working hard can work. And I actually did have quite a good career in IT by working hard. But I kick myself now, because if I had worked hard and had an amazing network, I could have done so much more, so much faster. So it's really important to learn to network. So let me tell you about what happened. I was told, Sue, you need to go network. This is my company told me this. You need to go network. There's a women's business networking event. Why don't you go to it? So this was my first networking experience. And yes, it involved a butcher's apron. So let me tell you the story. What happened was I was going to this event. I had never been to a formal networking event before. I really didn't have a goal for going other than people told me I should, so I was going. I truly wanted to turn tail and run before I got in the door, but I thought, no, I've paid for this luncheon, I'm going to go. I'll force myself to go. And then I told the lady who was basically at the registration desk that I was I'd never been before. I was really nervous and I didn't know anyone. Big mistake. I thought she might then introduce me to someone. Perhaps I could have a one-on-one conversation, which was what I was hoping for. But no, she didn't do that. She said, I've got the perfect thing. And she said, here. And she put this butcher's apron over my head. And I'm right away going, I don't know what's happened. No, I don't think so. And she was a very insistent lady. She really thought she knew what was best for me. And you've probably met those people. They don't listen very well. They don't pick up the cues and they're really trying to help. But it was really, so she put this on. The next thing she did was she gave me a straw hat and she put that on. And then it got worse. She gave me raffle tickets and she said, here, go sell these raffle tickets. You're going to meet so many people. It was just awful. I really didn't want to do it, but it would have been a big scene for me to say no. So I did do that. I did sell some tickets. I didn't make any connections because I was focused on, just trying to sell tickets. And it was a very traumatic experience. And frankly, it was years before I networked again, years. And even when I did, it was still, I had this kind of trauma, this memory of this event in my mind. So there are lots of reasons that can stop us from networking. So I want to invite you to maybe put in the chat some of the reasons that you have. I had some of my excuses or reasons. I'd invite you to put in the chat some of those reasons, and then Karina is going to read some of them out. And then I'm going to share with you the most common reasons that I've heard and what we can do about that. Okay, so please feel free to just type it in. Or if you want, somebody can, if you want, I'm happy if you want to unmute and just call something out, that's fine too. How are we doing? We're getting any comments in the chat?
Fear of rejection, that's a great one. Lack of confidence that you'll find something to talk about. Great answer, Jennifer, thank you. Especially reaching out on social media like LinkedIn feels like spamming. I think we can all relate to that one. I'm not sure if you get a reply and we put it out into that world and hope for the best. And he says social anxiety. I think a lot of us can relate to that one. Emily, thank you. I love networking, but I cannot find the time. So good for you for showing up today.
Yes, you're here.
Yay.
Yes.
And no prior networking experience. And
okay.
So those are definitely some good ones.
Thank you. They're very common reasons. So I'm going to share with you some of, so, people will say, I just don't know what to say when I meet people. What am I supposed to say? I don't feel comfortable doing that. Not knowing where to go is another thing. That people don't know what the events or the events that go to where there are people that they want to meet. This big one, which I think was mentioned, is, we're all afraid of being judged by others. Are we going to match up? And that's huge. Don't have time. And the bottom line is, if you don't put it in your calendars, you won't have time. You'll find something else to do, especially if you've got a bit of resistance. So that's why I really commend, I don't know who it was, Karina again, but the young lady who said that she didn't like networking and she showed up. So great job. You're here. Wonderful. Being an introvert or being shy is another thing that I hear a lot. Now, I used to be very shy, but I am actually a bit more of an extrovert than an introvert, I've discovered. But I can tell you that I delivered a presentation similar to this to some project managers over in Vancouver. And there were about 70 people in the room. And I gave them this little scenario. I said, imagine you're going to your first ever networking event. Maybe you can remember it. Maybe you've never even done it, but think about it. You're going to a networking event and you don't know anybody in the room. As you're going into the room, I want you to think about what you'll be feeling. And please raise your hand if you're just so excited and you can't wait to get into that room and start meeting people. Well, 2 people out of the 70 raised their hand. So I want the introverts to know that extroverts, because that was probably a 50-50 audience, you know, the extroverts have challenges with networking too. So just keep that in mind. If you're feeling uncomfortable, probably other people are too. And maybe you can even look at ways to make them feel more comfortable. Maybe go up to someone who's standing there all on their own and looking lost and introduce yourself and say, may I join you? They're going to be thrilled. And who knows, they could be a really great contact for you. Feeling inauthentic is another one I hear, that, you know, I'm supposed to impress people. And frankly, nobody wants you to show up as anything other than who you are. But I do encourage you to bring your best self. So if you've had a bit of a bad morning, just have a little talk to yourself and park the negative stuff and just bring your most positive energy in. But you don't need to fake it or pretend to be someone you're not. People can always tell as well. I can't make small talk. That was a big thing for me. I wasn't good at that. Actually, networking isn't all about small talk. It's more about being curious. That's my favorite word that I use when I go to a networking event. I'm curious. I'm interested in other people and learning from them. And when you go with that curious mindset, it takes the pressure off you. And you get past small talk and you actually get talking about things that are interesting. So there is a fear that you'll have to talk with people that you don't want to talk to, or somebody will attach themselves to you and you just can't, like a limpet, and you just can't move on. One of the things, I have a Networking for Success self-directed workshop. And I am offering, we'll talk at the end, I'm offering some special pricing to any of you who are interested in doing it. But I actually give you tips for how to extricate yourself if you're in one of these situations, and you can politely remove yourself from the conversation and move on and meet some other people. Yeah, this putting on an act to try to impress people, it doesn't work, and it doesn't make sense. Not knowing what to wear can be, you know, something to consider. And we'll talk a little bit about that for virtual networking as well. I actually went over to a conference in Vancouver and I was completely underdressed, when usually I'm kind of overdressed. I like to wear business attire and so on. And for some reason I dressed down and everyone else was wearing business attire and I stuck out like a sore thumb. And there was no time to go buy some new clothes. So and I'll give you tips as to what to do about that. I didn't see the value in networking. I thought it was a waste of my time, and a lot of people feel that way because they haven't really thought about it. Didn't know how to introduce myself, and really the other big excuse I've heard is, I don't enjoy virtual networking. If it's not in person, I'm not interested. Well, I have to tell you that that COVID for me has been incredible for my business, my coaching practice, but also for networking with people around the world. So I actually did more networking. I got a little hooked on virtual networking. Actually, I had to reduce my virtual networking. But you know, through this, I actually connect with some women in IT who are in Boston. And every Thursday they call Wine Down with Witty, and it's 5 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock their time. But I check in once a month with them. They do it every Thursday. I can't join every Thursday, but you know, it's great. And I've made some fantastic connections there, and even some friendships through that. So you can virtually network and really make strong connections without having met someone. So positively reframing that networking experience with preparation and practice, it really can be fun. So the key is telling yourself, like, I know what I'll say when I meet people. So you want to think about that. You want to think about how are you going to introduce yourself, because you can be pretty sure that someone's going to say, so what do you do? Or tell me about you. And if you've thought about that before you go to the event and you're comfortable with what you're going to share, then that's going to it's going to be a very comfortable experience. Knowing where to go to meet the people you want to connect with is really critical. You don't want to just go to a networking event because your friend has gone and said, oh, come on, it'll be fun. You want to think about who are the people who are there, and are they the kind of people that you want to connect with? And that's all, again, tied into having a networking strategy and thinking about, what are my goals for my networking? Something else that we do in the workshop is the networking workshop is set SMART goals and commit to what you need to do to achieve those goals. So it may be, going to 2 virtual networking events a month and coming away with connections to two people working in companies that I might be interested in working with or for in the future, something like that. But setting yourself some concrete goals is really helpful. And then figuring out where those people that you want to meet hang out. LinkedIn can really help with that as well. And we'll talk a little bit about LinkedIn as well. You want to go into the room feeling confident about who you are. You're not trying to be fake. You're not trying to be someone you're not, and what you have to contribute. So you may have valuable insights into what's going on in a particular area of IT or STEM, and you can bring that and share that with other people. So you want to be thinking about that ahead of time. You have made time in your calendar for the key networking events, not everyone, but the ones that are important to you. And you want to remind yourself that other people could be feeling uncomfortable too. You're not alone there. But you do want to have that little conversation and say, I'm going to show up as my best and most positive self. I have to tell you, I was going to a networking event. I'd been invited by one of my clients, and it was a women in finance kind of thing. And I really didn't want to go. I was exhausted. I had just had just a tiring week, and it was hot, and the room actually wasn't very well air conditioned. But I didn't know that at the time. I was just walking there thinking, Sue, you're going to this networking event and you're kind of a bit down. So I had a conversation with myself and I said, smarten up. You have no idea what might happen here. Just go in with a positive mindset and think that you're going to have fun. And I did. And I went to the event. I found, I sat at a table. I made some really great connections at the table. And then over the dessert table, there was desserts there, I was talking about how I do self-care retreats and at the Union Club, and they have delicious desserts. And I never used to eat desserts, but now I'm kind of hooked on them. And this lady said, you do self-care retreats? I could do with a self-care retreat for my staff. Will you come and see me? And so just from going there and being pleasant and being just natural and chatting, I went to see her. And in fact, she ended up hiring me to do a networking workshop for all of her team. So you'd be amazed at what can happen when you have a little conversation with yourself and bring your best self to events. You want to have some conversation starters, some open-ended questions, things that can't be answered with a yes or a no. And just having those in your back pocket. If the conversation dies down a little bit, then you can use those conversation starters. And you do want to know how to politely move on if you want to. Talked about this positive and curious mindset. Going to the event with that mindset is really important. You know the dress code, and you can do this by talking to people who've gone, or talk to the event organizer and ask them, what do people normally wear? Is it casual? Are they more business? Find out ahead of time. You're going with that mindset that you do see the value in networking. It is a great investment of your time. And you know how you'll introduce yourself when someone asks you that question, like, what do I do? So those are those sort of positively reframing networking that I hope you'll think about. So the benefits of networking, and why I'm so passionate about it being important for women in STEM is this. STEM is still, sadly, a very male-dominated field. And I truly believe that women who build a network, they can support one another, they can help one another with their career development, for their share opportunities and so on. And men have been doing this for decades. We're still figuring it out. That's why I love this connection that we have with iWIST and SCWIST. It's absolutely great that we do this, and we need to get more comfortable doing it, and we need to support one another. But in order to do that, we have to meet each other first and make those connections and build on them. So that's one big benefit, that we need to have our own network to support one another. You can learn from others about new developments in the field. I mean, The field of science and technology is dramatically changing so fast. It's impossible for anyone to keep right on top of everything. However, if you have, you go with that open mind, you go with a curious mind, you can learn from other people at networking events about new developments that can help you stay more current. This is a big one for women. Build yourself a group of trusted advisors. Like, figure out what it is you need in order to support your career and to support you and encourage you, and have that group of advisors so that you can tap into that. So that should be something in your mind when you're meeting people. Is this someone that I might want to, maybe we can help each other. I can be an advisor on this and they can help me with this. So definitely do that. It's a great way to research what it's like to work for other organizations. And, look before you leap. Talk to people who are actually working there, and you are going to get a window into what a company might be like before you even apply for a job there. The other thing that you might get is the inside scoop on upcoming job openings, because you make a connection with someone and they like you, and you keep that up a little bit. They could be the ones to let you know about a job that's coming up. And sometimes, even better, they don't post the job, they talk to you first and you get it. So there's no competition for that job. That's the greatest way to get a job, is through someone meeting you and saying, we need someone like this. Hey, let's come in and talk, and they create a job for you. So it's really important. I do a lot of work with people who are in career transition, usually professionals, a lot of them in STEM, women and men. And virtually all of them take my networking workshop, because a big part of making a transition is doing that work ahead of time and building connections and researching before you make a move. And so invariably they have challenges with networking too. And so this helps them do that. The other thing that happens is the more you network, the more your confidence builds. And so I really encourage you to do that. And it's also a fantastic way to raise your profile in your industry. And I see a lot of women in STEM, like building the networks, supporting one another. If they see a post, they'll like the post and share the event. Karina is amazing at doing that. She's just incredible. Always looking for ways to kind of support other people. She's just, she's a gem. Thank you, Karina. Okay, so those are some of the benefits. Now, there's some additional benefits of virtual networking, and I'm just curious to know if any of you can think of what some of those added benefits. And I kind of hinted at one of them, or told you about one of them, but in the chat, perhaps again, and we'll have Karina have a look at this. Let's see if you can think of some additional benefits of virtual networking.
I mean, I like Zoom because I can wear my slippers. I mean, when can you feel comfortable wearing sweatpants and slippers networking? So let's see what other great ideas people have in the chat there, the benefits of using Zoom for networking.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, you can expand the number of people that you can reach out to all over the world. So the geography has definitely changed, and I think that's a huge plus. Reaching a wider audience. Time management is easy. You can jump from one meeting to the next. You don't have to commute to the next location where you're meeting people. And so you can have a more efficient, productive day, which I think is great. Improve your communication skills. It's a great one.
Yeah. Let's see if I've got any more. I think the first one is the obvious one. You can expand this network beyond your local community. I mean, one of the things that a little niche that I have, which isn't, STEM related necessarily, but I help people who are moving to Victoria, and I have a free information session once a month. So if any of you in Vancouver are thinking of moving to the island, check in with me. I'll send you the link and you can come to this event. But I was always frustrated because I was holding them live and in person in Victoria, and by then they'd already moved, and I wanted to reach people before they got here. So when COVID forced me to put this onto a Zoom platform, it was fantastic. I've had people from Europe and Dominican Republic and Mexico and the US who have connected now with me in a way that they couldn't before. So I think it's great. And I told you about the ladies over in Boston that I connect with. The other thing it reduces, if you think about it, is when you go into a room and everybody's in little groups, and then you've got to somehow break into that group. Well, when we have our breakout groups today, you don't have to break into that group. You're just going to be put there, and you're going to be with 3 or 4 other ladies. You're going to have some questions that you know that you're going to answer, and it's a lot more comfortable than trying to kind of sidle up and stand there and see if somebody notices and asking, can I join you? It's very uncomfortable waiting to be included in a group. Apparently the absolute maximum that most people can tolerate is 30 seconds of standing there and being completely ignored, hopefully with a smile on your face too. And so that's something for you to think about. If you're at a networking event and you're with a group of people and you see someone standing nearby, try not to ignore them. Try to bring them into the group because they're really uncomfortable standing there, but they clearly would like to be included. So see if you can be the one to bring them into the group. It offers the opportunity to exchange emails and LinkedIn profile links through the chat. Is a great way that you can actually connect with people. It saves time and expenses. We talked about with the traveling. I hadn't really realized how much time I was spending traveling to networking events. And when I could suddenly I'm here doing it from my office, I don't have to travel anywhere. It was fantastic. The other thing with, you can't do it with webinars, but certainly with this Zoom meeting, you can see the names of the participants. And I do take a look at the names and make a note of any that I want to follow up with. And you can also reach out, as you know, probably in the chat to individuals and invite them to connect with you afterwards. And the other thing, I always reconnect with people. If I go to an event and I see 2 or 3 people I know, I'll always send a little chat to say, hey, Karina, lovely to see you here. And she'll send a note back. It's just a nice way to be social while you're virtually networking. So you can see there's lots of benefits to virtual networking. So here's my top tips. Once again, doesn't matter whether it's virtual or not, it's like bringing that positive attitude, that positive energy, and smiling, remembering to smile. You're much more approachable if you smile. Do have that intro prepared and have your conversation starters ready ahead of time. You're still going to need them in virtual networking, just as you do with a live networking. Dress appropriately. First impressions count. There's a young woman who was an executive coach who started a group here in Victoria, and every time she hosted the Zoom event, she was in a sweat top, and it just didn't look very professional. So she does dress a little more professionally looking now, but you have to think, what's the impression that you're trying to create? Just because you're at home and you're comfortable, and Karina, it was lovely of you to share that you've got your cozy slippers and everything, but do think about that impression, because it is the first impression people have. So think about it, you know. The other thing, do not be that person when you go into the breakout rooms. You're going to have 5 minutes each. Don't be the person who monopolizes and takes 10 or 15 minutes and nobody else has time to talk. So be very sensitive to that. You'll be told, generally speaking, if you're virtually networking, how much time you have. And a wonderful thing you can do is offer to be the timekeeper. So there you're helping everybody else, but you're also making sure that you're going to get a chance to have your say, because you're going to be watching that time. So that's a nice way to sort of manage that. And I'd like you to think about that when we go into the breakouts and have at least somebody volunteering to be that timekeeper when we go into the groups. Arrive early and make sure that you have that right meeting link and your technology is working. We got on early thanks to Annie, and I had a little panic through it, and we got it all sorted, so we're here now. But it's really good to arrive early. The other thing is, if I'm all organized, I will usually get on 10 minutes before any of my workshops. And if I see someone in the waiting room and I've got everything done, I'll invite them in. And you might get invited in early, and you might have a chance to chat with the presenter or other people. So there's other advantages to being early. And do bring your curiosity and your active listening skills. Now, has anybody seen those scary people who are backlit, you know, and all you can see is the shadow of their face and you can't see any facial expressions? Don't be that person. Don't ever position yourself with a window right behind you, because that's really what happens. And if you can't see people's facial expressions, you might even look scary, you know, and that's the whole point, is to try to connect. You can consider investing. I have a halo desk lamp. And I have a window to my right, and so I put my lamp on the left. I don't have it looking straight at me. If you have it looking straight at you, you may see circles in your eyes, which you get from halo lamps. But then if you do a lot of this work, you know, of connecting, it might be worth making that investment. They're less than $50, and it really helps. Do follow up after you've met someone, ideally within 48 hours if you can. And you may have exchanged emails, or you may have shared LinkedIn connections, but just do a little follow-up within 48 hours. If you do have to leave the room, just turn your video off temporarily. Only use those virtual backdrops that are so cool if you can sit still. I can't use them. As you can see, I like to wave my arms and move around, and it's kind of distracting sometimes if you've got someone and their backdrop isn't quite keeping up with where they're at. So just be aware of that. You know, they're cool, but they're best for people who are able to sit reasonably still. Yeah, another one here, stay focused on the speaker. You may not think that other people are noticing, but they will if you're multitasking. It can be distracting for other people, and it looks as though, you know, you're not paying attention. And I have to say, the Black Lives Matter event, you know, events, there was a panel discussion, and somebody who I know well was part of that panel, and he spent the whole time like this, and people were sharing really powerful stories, and it kind of looked like he wasn't paying attention. I talked to him afterwards. He says, well, no, I was taking notes, and you know, I was listening to everything but taking notes, but everyone else was just eyes locked on the speaker. So do be sensitive to that, and be aware that, you know, people may notice what you're doing, and you do want to, if you are going to take notes, just let people know ahead of time. By the way, if I'm looking away, it's not that I'm not listening, I'm taking notes, you know. Okay, more, turn your camera on. It is really hard to make a connection when it's off. And it kind of sends a bit of a message. I'm here, but you know, I might be doing some other things, or I couldn't really be bothered to put the top on. So yeah, but the point is, if you want to connect with people, you definitely want to have that camera on. Again, one of my experiences recently, I did my newcomers event, and everybody but one had their cameras off, and I felt like I was talking to nobody. So yeah, try to do that. I know it's a brown bag lunch, and I'm not monitoring to see who's eating and who isn't, but I do encourage you to perhaps do the eating before or after, because it can, again, that can be a distraction if people see you eating. But sipping some water or coffee is fine. Use that chat, as I mentioned, to reach others. Put your LinkedIn profile in the chat and invite people to connect. Because you've got a reason to connect. Then you can just reach out and just say, hey, it was great to see you in the brown bag lunch today. Would you like to connect on LinkedIn? And then you can begin a conversation. Invariably, people will accept your invitation. Sometimes it takes months because they're just not that active on LinkedIn. But I find that most people are happy to connect after one of these events. Curiosity, again, those listening skills. And I always invite the speakers and panelists to connect. And I just send a note saying, I really appreciate you taking time. Here's what I most enjoyed about what you shared. So that, and again, invariably they accept my invitation. So I encourage you to do that. And I would love to connect with any of you today on LinkedIn after this event. All right, so hopefully you'll buy into the fact that networking can be a life-enhancing experience. And now we're going to go to Q&A and just see if there's any questions that have come up before I want to make sure we've got time for networking. You know what I'm thinking? Perhaps we'll do the networking and come back to Q&A if we have time. What do you think? Any thoughts on that? Have you got any burning questions there, Karina, that showed up?
No burning questions yet. So I recommend we do some breakout rooms, and everyone's going to be like, oh no, I'm going to leave. I'm going to panic because I have to go into a breakout room. It's just people meeting people, right? We're all in the same boat together. So we'll make the breakout rooms big enough that, you know, you don't have to feel like you have to hold a conversation, and someone can be the timekeeper.
Right, like these are good open-ended questions for you to answer. What made you decide to come to this lunch? Maybe there's one thing that you're going to do as a result of what you heard. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what for work, and what you most enjoy about it. And then maybe to help other people, the type of connections that you'd like to make. You may have not really thought about that yet, but if you have time, think about that, because there could be someone in the room that could say, well, I know someone I could connect you with. So it's amazing what happens when you start sharing these kind of things. So we're not trying to impress people. We're just getting to know each other. We're making connections, okay? And each person is going to have 5 minutes. So we do need someone to be the timekeeper to make sure everyone gets a chance to chat. Are we going with rooms? We're going with rooms of 3 and 4, I think.
Yeah, we're going to do 3 or 4, so there'll be about 5 rooms, and that should give everyone a nice group to work with. And I'll open up the breakout rooms, and then we'll give you a warning just before we end, and then we'll all come back. If you have questions along the way, please put them in the Q&A, and we can address those as well. So we'll move everyone over to the rooms. Thanks so much, everyone.
Good.
Thanks, Sue. Great presentation. Okay. Here we go. And Annie and Nazir, did you want to join a room? You're welcome to. I don't know if you got the message to join. I don't think you have to. Looks like Sue did.
Should be okay. I'm just trying to type the questions.
Okay, so there are only 2 people in room 5. Maybe I can go there.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And Annie, are you putting the questions in the chat?
Yeah,
Perfect.
I think Sue forgot, so I was just typing in from the slide.
Thank you.
I hope everyone can see it in the breakout rooms.
Yeah, if not, I can do a broadcast message to all rooms.
Yeah.
Let me just see.
I usually it works, because if someone is monitoring the chat, then they should see it. But I think broadcast message is better, because everyone will. Yeah.
No. Hang on.
I'm just gonna pause the recording because it's just you and me.
Sure. Wonderful. All right, so it looks like everyone's back. So Sue, we do have a question for you. And again, I encourage everyone to put a question in chat if you have something that you'd like to ask. This one's from Jennifer. Great presentation. Great, thanks for saying that, Jennifer. One question for after the breakouts. What do you think is the minimum bar for interacting with someone before you connect with them on LinkedIn or accept a connection on LinkedIn? What's your thoughts on that, Sue?
The minimum bar. Well, so I would certainly, if you've been in a breakout room, there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't. I think why you wouldn't want to follow up afterwards and invite them to connect on LinkedIn. So, and you can just use that little, you can write a few words. So don't just send the invite to connect, go into it and actually say, it was great to connect with you in the breakout room. I'd love to have you, invite you to join my LinkedIn network. And it was great to chat about whatever, put a little, make it customized. I always, as I mentioned, will go invite the speakers to connect with me. and let them know that I appreciated them. I mean, if you saw someone and they shared something or they had a question that you found really interesting, that's another reason why you could reach out to them and say, I really loved your question, would like to connect on LinkedIn. So I encourage people to do that. And after they've accepted, you can continue the dialogue. If you'd actually like to arranging a Zoom meeting can be a great way to get to know people a little bit better. Ask them for 5 or 10 minutes of their time, just so that you can learn a little bit more about what they do, not to look for work, not to see if you have a job for me, to just start to get to know each other and feel each other out. Yeah, did that answer the question?
It did. Sorry, I just unmuted myself.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's great. So sorry, I had entered it before the breakout. So that was a really insightful answer. I think even more generically, you know, I get like lots of invitations on LinkedIn from people that I don't know. And so like, what do you think is the minimum bar sort of more generally in the world around connecting on someone with LinkedIn? Like, do you feel like it's, you know, do you accept invitations from people who sort of seem to be reaching out either from within your network or randomly, or kind of how do you judge that and think about that?
Well, I'll usually look, I mean, I can't tell you how many invites I get from people who want to coach coaches to build their coaching business. So I see that right away. I know, you know, no, that's not really what I'm looking for. If I get someone who's a professional, perhaps, who's reaching out, usually for me, they're reaching out perhaps because they are thinking about some sort of career transition and they might be interested, or they just want to expand their network and they see that I have a lot of connections. So by connecting with me, they're going to get an advantage, you know. I will generally speaking, I will go and look at their profile and I will actually look at their activity, because I don't want to connect with someone who is putting any kind of extremist views out there or anything like that, you know, because other people will judge maybe potentially that by who I'm connected with. But I'm not one of these elitists who like, I'll only connect with the top executive. I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
I think we should have I think a broader group is great. There will be some people in that group who are going to be closer connections, but if they look, you know, okay, if they look like somebody that I could relate to or that I might be able to support, then I'll generally accept it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Glad to.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jennifer and Sue. We've got another question. Thanks, Sylvia. What's the etiquette for connecting on Facebook? Is there a different etiquette for Facebook? And can you talk a little bit about that one?
I wish I could tell you. I honestly, LinkedIn is my networking platform. I don't really, I'm on Facebook, but I'm not an active user. So I'm not the right person to talk to you about that. Sorry.
Yeah, I could chime in there. I think from a business perspective, you know, Facebook is really meant for friends, and that's how most people have used it. I do see some business on there, but LinkedIn is really the professional network, and I would encourage you to use LinkedIn more than Facebook for business connections. Anyone else want to chime in on that question? No?
I think Twitter is another second after the LinkedIn, if we are talking about the professional chatting and interactions. Twitter is really growing.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, another question. What organizations or associations would you recommend to network? So we've listed 3 of them, just in terms of online, but also where can we find information about different networking events? So SCWIST is a great place. I'll answer that. iWIST is another one. Both of them have lots of events, really easy to join. There's in-person events as well as online events. And then there's lots of calendars. If it's Victoria or Vancouver Island or Vancouver, find an organization in your local area. Sue, would you have anything to add to that?
I think, yeah, it really does depend on your local areas. So I would look on Eventbrite and look that there's different platforms where events are featured. And you could find the perfect group there. So it's just a question of researching. Another good way is actually to go and look at people's LinkedIn profiles that you would like to connect with and see what groups they're affiliated with. And that's how you can discover perhaps some new organizations that you didn't know about. So that's, to me, is another way. And I don't think it's stalking to do that. I don't know if people have negative views about that, but I don't see that as I think that's just doing research. It's part of learning from one another. And also then you can also see things that you have in common, so that when you do connect, you can say, hey, I see we're both members of this, or I'm really curious about this group that you're part of. I'd love to learn more about it. Could we chat about that? It's a great reason to have a conversation with someone.
Yeah, and someone's added Meetup as well. So that's a great option as well. So we're at the top of the hour. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. I want to thank Sue for the presentation today. I think we all got some great top tips for networking in the Zoom world. And thank you, SCWIST, for co-hosting with us. Really appreciate the session today. And thank you everyone for coming. Good for you for coming out today and going into the breakout rooms and networking with everyone. That's a great points for you. And I encourage you, if you want to connect with other people, you can either put your LinkedIn in the chat, or you're welcome to reach out to other people. Hopefully they'll be receptive to accepting your LinkedIn requests. We'll stay on if there's anyone have any further questions, but other than that, unless SCWIST has anything to say, Sue, yeah, go ahead. I
have something I wanted to share, but I don't know if I can find it. I'm just trying to find it. Here we are. Yeah, I just want to let you know that, as I say, I do love working with women in STEM. And so one of the things that I am offering to everybody here, and I hope it's okay, I'm not doing something I shouldn't be doing, but I do want to offer you my Networking for Success self-directed workshop with this 30-minute coaching, one-on-one coaching strategy with me for just $75. It's not available on my website, so you will need to either call me or email me or reach me on LinkedIn. And it's invaluable, and it will really give you it gives you tips for many more things. I'll send you a description of it if you're interested, and happy to offer this to anybody who came here today. And if you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, here's that's how you can find me on LinkedIn, and I would love to see you there. But yeah, thanks for being here, ladies. It was so cool to hang out with you, and hopefully you've made some good connections. And thanks so much to SCWIST and iWIST for making this happen. All right, sorry, I'm going to go back to you, Karina.
No, that's wonderful. Thanks so much, Sue, and thanks everyone for joining. That's officially it for today. Join our upcoming events. You can find those on the SCWIST website as well as the iWIST website, and we hope to see you at some additional events. Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming today.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Sue, for the great tips on virtual networking and encouraging all of us to come out of our comfort zone, embrace virtual networking